Hi, I'm Robin Trimingham, and I'm here with Olderhood founder Bill Storie, and you're listening to Radio Olderhood, Retirement Happiness, a continuing series. So, Bill, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Robin. Hi, everybody. Yeah, this week I think is we'd written in the our retirement happiness column an article about friendships, and I think in some respects it was a fairly heavy subject.
I have a question for you. Are you one of these guys who has lifelong friendships from high school?
Some,
Yeah?
well, a
Do you
handful.
still have guys that you talk to?
Well, yeah, well, one or two, one
Yeah?
or two. No, and I think the article was about. There seems to be, as we get older, there seems to be this desire to, to try and keep friends and make, perhaps make new friends, but to keep old friends. Um, and I mean, bearing in mind that the theme of the column is retirement happiness, my argument was that in some respects, we tend to hang on to or linger or cling to friendships which perhaps have gone beyond their sell by date.
Do you ever find that your friendships kind of go in circles? Like sometimes you see the same people like all the time, and then you sort of drift apart, maybe for a few months or a few years. Then all of a sudden, these people are like back in your life
Oh,
again.
without any doubt.
Because I definitely have that.
Well, but I think as I say, the point about clinging to that is that sometimes, let's be honest, sometimes you have friends who just begin to bore you. You just get fed up with
I
their
guess I
characters.
better be careful then.
Well, yeah, but just their characteristic, just what they do, just their everyday life. It's the same old, same old. They're whining or they're moaning about something. And I think after a while, sometimes you just begin to say, you know what, this is making me unhappy.
Yeah, that Bill
Unhappy.
story, he's such a pain.
Well, no, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Well, I mean, a lot of people say that, but I think a lot of people just simply, refuse to dispense with the friendship. Now, that's a bit harsh. That's why I said it's a heavy subject. You don't want to just cut people out of your life, but I think for your own happiness, particularly because you are getting older, then you want to make sure that you have as much happiness as you can. And if you're stuck in a friendship through
You know
loyalty,
what? Julia Cameron, in her book The Artist's Way, that I talked about a few weeks ago, actually has a whole chapter on this. She calls these toxic friendships because they are encouraging your negative withdrawing tendencies as opposed to your positive outgoing
that's
tendencies.
exactly right.
I sort
Yeah.
of think that these people should be given some breathing room as opposed to cut out of your life. Because I have friends who might be listening to this as well. Don't worry, I haven't written you off. But I do agree that sometimes just because of what you're going through in your own life, especially if you're having like some sort of a personal crisis, you'll discover that some of your friends are there for you, and some people that you thought would be there for you are not there for you, and some people that had never occurred to you would be there for you are suddenly amazingly there for you.
Well, but I mean, how many times have you been in a conversation with one other person, and between you, the two of you, you're talking about a third person, and the third person isn't there. Okay? And so the two of you are talking about this other person, and one of you says, "Oh, he's changed a lot over the last several years," or "She has changed." How often have you? How often have you had that
I
conversation?
think you know what though? I think what a lot of people miss about a conversation like that is in order to be able to realize that someone you know has changed, what you are not acknowledging is that you have changed yourself.
That's the point. And that's the point I was making in the article, that you have changed, and because you have changed, and hopefully for the better, at least for the better as far as you feel, or as far as you're concerned, then to try clinging back to that old friendship through, just that sense of loyalty, may not be the best thing to do. It may be just face up to the fact that you're not really that friendly with that person, anymore. So accept it and move on and
One of
hopefully be
my
a little bit more happy.
favorite rock and roll songs, because I'm a product of the rock and roll era, I don't even remember who wrote it, but it's a guy, and he's singing about his rise to fame and fortune, and he says, "My Maserati goes 185. I've lost my license. Now I can't drive. I can't handle this fortune and fame. Everybody's so different. I'm still the same."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we all think we're the same. And I think deep down we are still the same person. We may have changed because we've got older, or because we're financially secure, or because we just have a much better lifestyle. But hanging on to friendships just for the sheer
Well, maybe hanging on to anything.
well,
I
no,
mean,
of course.
that can be said about a job or your
Well,
stuff
of course.
or anything.
You're right. You're absolutely right. But we thought that this week's article about friendship was a particularly heavy one. We have had a lot of comments coming back in where people have said, I hadn't realised that I have a friend that we went to school together or something, but she has changed. When I have changed, she has changed, and frankly, we don't have much in common anymore. And I think the point of the article was to say there's nothing wrong in that. As I said, face up to it and accept it, move on, because she will move on. You can both move on,
And you can get together and have lunch again in a few months or a year, and just catch up on what's going on with both of you.
And exactly, and if there is time of need, I'll bet you that person's going to be the first one to come to your door.
I have
Anyway,
no doubt about
It's
that.
a heavy subject. Next week will be on a little bit lighter note, because I think I'm getting the wind-up signal here. But
Yeah, I think that's a good place to stop. Don't forget to check out our Facebook page, which is at facebook.com/olderhood.com, and we will look forward to talking to you again soon. Take care, everybody.
Thanks. Bye. Bye.